Teyana Taylor's daughter just gave the only interview you need to see. Actor Awards 2026 exclusive. Leaked. Unbelievable. What you're about to hear is the moment nobody at the 2026 Actor Awards was prepared for. And it didn't happen on stage, didn't involve a trophy, and definitely wasn't on the official broadcast. Late last night, as cameras cut and publicists thought the night was done, a backstage interview surfaced that has Hollywood in a chokehold. According to multiple insiders, Teyana Taylor's daughter, who has never spoken publicly like this before, sat down for a short, unscheduled conversation that was never meant to leave the room. No cue cards, no handlers, just one question, and an answer that froze everyone listening. Fans are shocked because the clip didn't leak through blogs first. It popped up through a low-follower fan page with access to a private feed, then vanished. 30 minutes later, it reappeared with captions screaming, "This changes everything." And once people heard what she said, the timeline split in half. Industry whispers say producers tried to stop the footage from circulating. Others claim the interview was cut mid-sentence. And here's where it gets wild. A single line from that interview has people rewatching years of old interviews, lyrics, and public statements from Teyana with a completely different lens. Emotions ran high instantly. Some fans called it brave, and others said it crossed a line that should have never been crossed. Why did this happen now? Why at this awards show? And why are insiders saying this moment could permanently change how Teyana's career and family are viewed going forward? Because this wasn't a random comment. It didn't sound rehearsed. And according to someone who was in the room, she said the one thing nobody wanted said out loud. So before you jump to conclusions, before the blogs remix the story, and then before sides get picked for you, stay right here. Because once we break down what was said, who tried to stop it, and what allegedly happened moments after the cameras cut, you'll understand why this is being called the most uncomfortable and unforgettable moment of the entire night. To really understand why that backstage moment shook people so hard, you have to understand how carefully this family has moved for years. Teyana Taylor has always been intentional about what she shares and what she keeps locked away. She's spoken openly about loving her supporters while also drawing firm lines between her career and her children's lives. That balance isn't easy when the internet treats access like a right. From early on, fans noticed how different her approach was. No forced smiles on red carpets, no viral moments manufactured for clicks. When her daughter did appear in public, it was brief, controlled, and always framed through Teyana's lens as a proud mother. Not a manager, not a brand. That choice earned respect from some, but it also fueled curiosity from others who felt shut out. Over the years, that curiosity turned into speculation. Comment sections filled with people wondering what it must be like growing up under that kind of spotlight without ever choosing it. Some fans romanticized it, others questioned it. A few even accused Teyana of being too controlling, while supporters clapped back saying protection isn't control, it's parenting. Those debates simmered quietly, never exploding, but never going away either. What made the Actor Awards moment feel inevitable is that pressure doesn't disappear just because it's ignored. It builds. Every time Teyana spoke about growth, boundaries, or stepping back from music, fans read between the lines. When she talked about peace, and people assumed chaos existed somewhere off camera. And when she praised her daughter's strength in interviews, some fans started wondering what kind of strength a child would even need. Behind the scenes, insiders say there had already been conversations about media access as her daughter got older. Not interviews, just presence. Being seen at events. Being acknowledged as more than a shadow. Nothing dramatic, nothing planned. Just slow, natural steps. That's why what happened backstage didn't feel staged to people who know the industry. It felt unscripted, almost accidental. People who were there say the energy shifted the moment the question was asked. Not a controversial question, not a baited one. Just something simple that opened a door that had been closed for years. And instead of dodging it, she answered, calmly, honestly. Without realizing how loud honesty sounds when it's been silent for so long. And that's what fans are reacting to now. Not anger, not disrespect, but the shock of hearing a perspective they were never meant to hear yet. Some people immediately praised the courage it took to speak. Others questioned whether it should have happened at all. Emotions ran high because everyone projected their own experiences onto that moment. Parents saw fear. Kids saw bravery. Critics saw risk. What complicates everything is that this didn't happen in isolation. The timing matters. The location matters. An award show celebrating acting, storytelling, and truth. A backstage space where cameras are always rolling, even when they're off. And a family that has spent years controlling narratives suddenly losing control of one sentence. Industry veterans immediately recognized the danger. Not scandal danger, but narrative danger. Once a story like this starts, it doesn't stay small. It gets dissected, replayed, reframed. Old interviews get new meanings. Innocent moments get reinterpreted. And people who never wanted to speak become the center of conversations they didn't ask for. That's why phones started buzzing almost instantly. Publicists, managers, producers. Everyone trying to figure out what leaked, who had it, and how much of it existed. Because one sentence can be explained away. A full clip? That's a different situation entirely. And that's where things get uncomfortable. Because according to insiders, what the public heard might not even be the most intense part of that interview. There are claims that the camera cut early, that a follow-up question was asked, and that someone off-screen stepped in. If that's true, then what we saw was only the surface. And what didn't air might be the reason this moment refuses to die down. Because when silence finally breaks, it never does it quietly. What happened next is where things started feeling less accidental and more dangerous. According to multiple insiders who were backstage that night, the moment her answer landed, the room didn't erupt. It froze. No applause, no follow-up laughter. Just a pause so long someone reportedly asked if the audio had cut out. And then, almost immediately, a voice off-camera stepped in and said, "Let's wrap this up." That's when people realized this interview had crossed an invisible line. Sources say a publicist moved fast, placing themselves between the camera and the chair, while another staffer reached for the audio pack. The camera light went dark, but not before catching one last reaction. Eyes wide, jaw tight, like someone realizing they'd just said something that couldn't be taken back. And according to someone who was standing nearby, Teyana Taylor wasn't even in the room when it happened. That detail alone set the internet on fire once it leaked. Fans are shocked because it raised an uncomfortable question. If this was harmless, why shut it down so abruptly? And if it wasn't planned, why was there a feed running at all? Within an hour, rumors started spreading that the interview wasn't just cut, it was flagged. Not for language, not for behavior, but for content. Then came the first twist. A fan account with barely a few thousand followers posted a short clip, less than 20 seconds, with the caption, "They tried to stop this." The audio was grainy, the video shaky, but the words were clear enough to spark chaos. In that clip, she allegedly said something that reframed years of public perception, hinting at pressure, expectations, and feeling spoken for before ever being asked. No names were dropped, no accusations made, and yet the implications were loud. Within minutes, The clip was reposted by bigger pages, then taken down, then reposted again with different captions. This hits different. Why would she say this? Y'all owe her an apology. Twitter threads exploded, each claiming to have context or inside info. Emotions ran high because everyone heard the same sentence but interpreted it completely differently. Some fans praised the honesty, calling it brave and overdue. Others accused the media of exploiting a young voice for clicks. A few went further, questioning whether this moment was manipulated by producers chasing virality. And then there were those who turned their attention back to Teyana herself, in asking whether protecting your child also means controlling their voice. That's when the industry started reacting quietly. A well-known actress liked a tweet that read, "Kids don't ask for legacies." A producer subtweeted, "Backstage feeds are never really off." A former child star posted a single word, "Felt." None of them explained. None of them had to. The message was clear. This moment touched a nerve deeper than gossip. Meanwhile, insiders claim calls were being made behind the scenes, and damage control conversations. Questions about who owned the footage, whether it could legally be scrubbed, whether responding would make it worse. And according to one source, someone asked the question nobody wanted to answer. What if there's more? That's where the second wave hit. A rumor began circulating that the clip everyone saw wasn't the full answer, that there was a follow-up sentence that never made it out. Something said after the camera started to move away, in something that caused the abrupt cutoff. No proof yet, just whispers. But those whispers were enough to send fans digging. Old interviews resurfaced. Moments that once felt harmless suddenly felt loaded. Fans started saying things like, "She was telling us without telling us," and "Listen to how Teyana talks about peace now." The narrative shifted from shock to reevaluation. And that's dangerous territory, because once people start rewriting history, no one controls where it ends. What makes this moment feel different from every other viral clip is that nobody is denying it happened. There's no official statement saying it was fake. No claim of AI. Just silence. And in this era, silence speaks loud. As the night turned into morning, one thing became clear. This wasn't just a clip anymore. It was a crack in a carefully built wall. And whether intentional or not, that crack was widening fast. Because if one sentence caused this much reaction, people are now asking the question that won't go away. The clip. News outlets hinted without quoting. Fan pages filled the gaps with speculation, side-by-sides, and slowed down audio trying to catch every syllable. Fans are shocked not just by what was said, but by how quickly the narrative slipped out of anyone's control. Once the hashtag started trending, it didn't matter who wanted it quiet anymore. What really pushed this into a different lane was how the industry reacted without officially reacting. No statements, no denials, just movement. According to insiders, publicists began calling producers asking who had access to the backstage feed. One executive allegedly said, "That camera should have never been live." Another reportedly replied, "They always are." That exchange alone explains why panic set in. Because if this feed leaked once, it could leak again. Meanwhile, a fan started splitting into camps. One side argued that a young voice finally being heard was long overdue. The other side said moments like this shouldn't happen without consent, preparation, or protection. Emotions ran high because both sides believed they were defending the same thing, her well-being, just in different ways. And right in the middle of that debate sat Teyana Taylor, silent. That silence was loud. People noticed she didn't post that night. No photos, no congratulations, no great show. For someone known to be present and expressive, the absence felt intentional. Fans began reading into it immediately. Some said she was protecting her child. Others said she was furious the boundary had been crossed. A few even suggested she was blindsided. None of it was confirmed, but the guessing didn't stop. Then came another twist. A different fan account claimed the clip wasn't leaked accidentally at all. According to their caption, the interview had been labeled internal only and saved automatically to a server accessible by multiple departments. That claim ignited a new wave of conversation. If true, it meant the footage existed in full somewhere, and more people had seen it than the public realized. That's when alleged transcripts started appearing. Nothing verified. Just text posts claiming to quote what was said before and after the clip cut. Some sounded supportive. Others sounded confrontational. One line in particular kept resurfacing, allegedly referencing being expected to carry something before understanding what it weighs. That phrase alone sent fans spiraling. People started asking what that something was. Fame? Legacy? Silence? Industry commentary followed in code. A respected journalist tweeted, "Awards season always reveals more than wins." A former child actor commented under a fan post, "I wish I'd said it sooner." Those reactions poured gasoline on an already burning conversation. Because now it wasn't just about one family, it was about a system. At the same time, producers from the awards show reportedly went into containment mode. Posts were reviewed, clips were scrubbed, employees were reminded of confidentiality. But the internet doesn't respond well to cleanups. Fans noticed the missing content and assumed the worst. "If it's gone, it mattered," one viral comment read, and that sentiment spread faster than any clip ever could. What made this moment feel even heavier was the lack of clarity around consent. Did she know she was being recorded? Did she expect the footage to stay private? Was the question approved? Those details matter, and the absence of answers made the situation feel uneasy. Some fans defended the interviewer, saying the question wasn't invasive. Others criticized the environment entirely, arguing that backstage isn't the place for vulnerability to be captured. As hours passed, the conversation shifted from shock to consequence. People started asking what this would mean moving forward. Would she speak again? Would Teyana address it publicly? Would the footage resurface in full? Every possibility carried weight. Because once a voice breaks silence like that, putting it back behind the curtain isn't simple. What's undeniable is that this moment reframed how people view silence itself. Was it protection, or was it pressure? Was privacy a shield, or a cage? Those questions don't have clean answers, and that's why this story refuses to cool down. And now, with insiders hinting that at least 2 people have the uncut interview saved, the tension hasn't peaked yet. It's just paused. Because if even a fraction of what's rumored is true, the next thing that leaks won't just spark debate. As the hours stretched on, the tension didn't fade, it sharpened. People inside the industry say this is the stage where stories usually die down, but this one refused to follow the script. Every attempt to quiet it only made it louder. Fan pages weren't just reposting clips anymore. They were building timelines. Screenshots of old interviews, captions from years ago, unsubtle pauses in conversations. All of it was suddenly being stitched together like evidence in a trial nobody agreed to participate in. What really shifted the atmosphere was a quiet detail most people missed. According to an insider connected to the awards production team, the interview slot her daughter appeared in wasn't on the original rundown. It was added last minute, squeezed between 2 press obligations after a producer reportedly said, "It'll be quick. Just a light question." That sentence alone changed how fans saw everything. Because if it wasn't planned, then control was already lost before the camera even rolled. Meanwhile, People close to Teyana Taylor were reportedly in full protect mode. Not aggressive, not defensive, strategic. One source claimed phones were lighting up with the same question over and over. Do we address this or let it breathe? The problem was, every minute it breathed, it grew. Silence had turned into interpretation, and interpretation was turning into belief. Then another unexpected moment hit. A well-known media trainer posted a vague but pointed message. Kids don't break silence unless silence was heavy. The post didn't name names, but the timing was impossible to ignore. Fans latched onto it instantly. Comments flooded in. Some thanked them for saying what others wouldn't. Others accused them of fueling speculation. Emotions ran high because it felt like lines were being drawn without anyone officially stepping forward. At the same time, award show staffers reportedly began sharing their own side of the story privately. Not publicly, never publicly, but in group chats and DMs. One claim kept repeating that the interviewer looked shaken after the cut. Another said someone asked, "Did we just cross a boundary?" Those whispers gave the story a new edge. This wasn't just a viral moment anymore. It was an ethical one. Fans began reframing the clip not as drama, but as confession. And confessions demand responses. Some supporters rallied behind the idea that this was a necessary crack in a polished image. Others argued that the world had no right to analyze a young voice like a case study. The divide was sharp, and it wasn't clean. People who usually agreed found themselves on opposite sides. Parents argued with non-parents. Industry insiders disagreed publicly for the first time in years. The family was left divided in public perception, even if privately they were likely more united than anyone realized. What made this even more intense was the sudden resurfacing of an old quote from Teyana herself. A fan dug up a clip where she once said, "Peace sometimes looks like silence to people who don't know what you're protecting." That quote went viral overnight. Some saw it as confirmation. Others saw it as heartbreak in hindsight. Either way, it poured emotion into an already overloaded conversation. And still, no statement. That absence turned into the loudest sound in the room. Fans speculated about legal considerations. Others suggested this was about protecting her daughter from further exposure. A few went darker, wondering if addressing it would validate something that was never meant to be interpreted this way. None of those theories were confirmed, but confirmation wasn't required anymore. The story had momentum. By the end of the second day, something became clear. This wasn't going away quietly. Too many people saw themselves in that moment. Too many industry veterans felt exposed by it. Too many fans felt like a boundary had been crossed, whether by silence or by speech. And now, with insiders claiming a private meeting is scheduled between the family and awards executives, the stakes just went up. Because meetings like that don't happen over misunderstandings. They happen when there's something to manage. The only question left hanging is the one nobody can answer yet. Is this the last time we hear her voice on this topic? Or the first time the full story finally steps into the light? By the third day, the conversation had moved out of fan spaces and straight into rooms most people never see. According to insiders, a closed-door meeting took place involving awards executives, legal reps, and members of Teyana Taylor's team. No press, no notes. Just a quiet acknowledgement that whatever happened backstage had crossed from viral moment into reputational risk. And that's when another uncomfortable detail surfaced. Someone familiar with the situation claimed the interview wasn't flagged because of what was said, but because of who was watching. Allegedly, a few high-level industry figures were monitoring the backstage feed live, the same way scouts watch auditions. When the answer landed, one of them reportedly said, "That's not something you let the internet interpret." That sentence alone reframed everything, because it suggested the concern wasn't scandal, it was exposure. Fans are shocked by that implication. If true, It means the system reacted faster than the public, not to protect a narrative, but to contain one. And once that idea took hold, the debate exploded all over again. Was this about shielding a child from scrutiny, or shielding an industry from accountability? Online, fan factions hardened. One group pushed the idea that this was proof of how tightly controlled celebrity families really are. Another argued that people were projecting trauma where none was confirmed. Emotions ran high because the clip became a mirror. People weren't just reacting to what they heard, they were reacting to what they'd lived. Then came a moment nobody expected. A longtime collaborator of Teyana's posted a single Instagram story, a black screen with white text that read, "Sometimes silence is not denial. It's preparation." No caption, no explanation. The post vanished within an hour, but not before screenshots spread everywhere. Fans read it as a warning. Others read it as a promise. At the same time, awards show producers reportedly began rewriting internal policies about backstage interviews. Not publicly. Quietly. On language about non-scheduled minors was added. Camera access rules were tightened. That kind of change doesn't happen over nothing. It happens when something rattles confidence at the top. Meanwhile, Teyana herself finally broke her silence, but not how anyone expected. Instead of a statement, she posted an old photo. No caption. Just her and her daughter years ago, laughing, blurry, unposed. Comments were turned off within minutes. That move spoke volumes without saying a word. Our fans debated it instantly. Some called it protection, others called it heartbreak. Either way, it shifted the tone from speculation to emotion. Industry insiders say that post wasn't accidental. It was intentional restraint. A reminder that behind the discourse, there's a real family deciding what access looks like going forward. But restraint didn't stop curiosity. It sharpened it. Because now people are asking a new question. If this much reaction came from a few seconds, what happens if she ever chooses to speak fully, on her own terms? Rumors are already swirling about a sit-down interview later this year. Not confirmed, not denied, just whispers. And those whispers are enough to keep this story alive. Because everyone knows the difference between a moment that escapes and a moment that's chosen. Right now, the industry is holding its breath. Fans are refreshing feeds. And the silence feels different. Less like avoidance, more like the calm before a decision. Whatever comes next won't be accidental. And when it arrives, it won't just be another clip. It'll be the version of the story that finally decides who gets to speak and who has to listen. Once the silence stretched past a few days, the internet did what it always does when answers don't come. It created its own. And this is where the situation officially went from tense to uncontrollable. Twitter threads started trending overnight, breaking down every second of the leaked clip frame by frame. Fan pages compared timestamps, body language, even the way the interviewer shifted in their seat. Hashtags like leatherspeak and protect her peace began competing on the timeline, splitting fans into two emotional camps almost instantly. Fans are shocked by how fast the conversation escalated. One viral thread claimed the interview lined up with comments Teyana Taylor made years ago about breaking cycles quietly. Another thread argued the opposite, insisting the moment was being overanalyzed and unfairly placed on a child's shoulders. Both sides came with screenshots, clips, and long captions written like manifestos. Emotions ran high because people weren't just debating a clip. They were debating identity, parenting, and control. Then celebrities started reacting without really reacting. A-list actors liked tweets and unliked them minutes later. A well-known singer replied to a fan with, "This industry raises kids too fast," then deleted it. An influencer with millions of followers posted a story saying, "Some of y'all don't understand what silence costs," followed by a broken heart emoji. None of them named names. None of them had to. The message landed anyway. Industry commentary quietly confirmed how serious this had become. A respected entertainment journalist tweeted, "Backstage interviews are rarely accidental. When they go wrong, it's because boundaries weren't clear." That tweet alone was screenshotted tens of thousands of times. Fans interpreted it as validation. Critics called it vague damage control. Either way, it added fuel. Then came the second major shock. A verified account claiming to be a former awards show staffer dropped a thread saying the clip that leaked was only a fraction of the exchange. According to them, after the camera cut, there was a pause, and then a follow-up question was asked off mic. And they didn't post the audio. They didn't post proof. But they ended the thread with one sentence that changed everything. Her answer made the room uncomfortable for a reason. That sentence sent shockwaves through every platform. Fan pages went into overdrive. Some claimed to have sources. Others claimed to have heard the full audio. Fake transcripts started circulating, some contradicting each other, some oddly similar. No one knew what to believe, but belief stopped mattering. The idea that more existed was enough. The family was left divided in public opinion, even though no one actually knew what was real. At the same time, news outlets cautiously entered the conversation. Headlines avoided specifics but leaned into language like unexpected, unplanned, and unprecedented. Television panels debated whether children of celebrities should ever be asked personal questions, especially in spaces meant for promotion, not vulnerability. Every discussion circled back to the same issue: consent versus curiosity. What made the situation unbearable was how quiet the central figures remained. No clarification, no denial, no, that's not what happened. Just distance. And in internet culture, distance gets interpreted as confirmation faster than facts ever could. Insiders say the reason for the silence isn't confusion, it's strategy. One source allegedly said, "Once you speak, you pick a version of the story." Right now, they're refusing to choose. That choice frustrated fans who wanted closure, but it also kept the story alive. Because unresolved tension is the most powerful kind. Then, just as the conversation threatened to burn itself out, another unexpected moment happened. A well-known awards producer gave a radio interview and was asked, casually, about backstage chaos this year. They laughed nervously and said, "Let's just say we're changing a lot of rules next year." That comment was enough to reopen everything. Fans immediately connected dots. If nothing serious happened, why change rules? By now, the story wasn't about one interview anymore. It was about access. Who gets it? Who controls it? And what happens when someone speaks before the system is ready to hear them? Right now, the internet is holding its breath. Because if the uncut interview exists, and multiple insiders say it does, the next decision isn't whether it leaks. It's whether someone chooses to release it. And if that happens, this moment won't just be talked about as a viral clip. It'll be remembered as the night everything shifted. Before you click away, stop and really think about what you just heard, because moments like this don't happen often, and they don't disappear quietly. One unexpected interview. One leaked clip. And suddenly, Teyana Taylor and her family are at the center of a conversation the industry clearly wasn't ready for. Fans are shocked. Emotions ran high. And depending on who you ask, this was either a brave crack in a controlled system or a boundary that should have never been crossed. Now it's your turn to speak. Do you believe this moment was accidental? Or do you think it was something that's been building for years? Was that silence protection? or pressure? And if the full interview really exists, do you think it should ever be released? Or should some truths stay off camera? Drop your honest opinion in the comments, because this is one of those stories where there is no neutral ground, and everyone hears it differently. If this breakdown made you pause, rewind, or rethink what you thought you knew, hit that like button so more people can join the conversation. Subscribe to the channel if you want updates the second anything new drops, because if another clip leaks, if someone finally speaks, or if the family addresses this directly, the narrative could flip overnight. Turn on notifications too, because stories like this don't wait. And while you're in the comments, keep it real, but keep it respectful. This isn't just internet drama. It's about family, identity, and who gets to control their own voice in a world that profits off access. Debate it. I'll question it. Stand on your take. But remember, there are real people living with the aftermath long after the timeline moves on. Stay locked in, stay critical, and don't assume silence means nothing is happening. Because if this week proved anything, it's that the loudest shifts don't always come with announcements. They come with moments nobody can undo. We'll be watching this closely. And trust, this story isn't finished yet.